Welcome, everybody, to the August 21st, 2023 Finance Committee meeting. Appreciate everybody being here today. We do have a rather lengthy agenda with some items that may require a lot of discussion. So please have patience with us as we move forward with that today. Anyone who will make comments under the public comment timeframe, please identify yourself for the record. Also, if everybody could turn their cell phones to either mute or vibrate. We also have a couple of additional items on the agenda today as well. So with that, Clerk Jen, if you could please read the first item on our agenda. I'll do that for the one item. Go ahead.
Number 7, ordinance third reading, defining the terms and conditions of employment for sworn officers of the Cheyenne Police Department for fiscal year 2023 to 2024.
Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Janes, Captain, Cheyenne Police Department. What you have before you is the 2023-2024 terms and conditions. We have to redo this every year for our officers. And this one, the only change in it changes the minimum number of hours an officer can put in for overtime for call out or for court time to 2 hours from 1 hour. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Captain Janes. Stand by. Questions for the captain? Hearing none. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I'd so move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from committee?
Chairman White, through you, I just wanted to note that Lynn Sherman did get back in touch with a question I had about specialty call pay plan schedule. And just so that the committee knows, there is, they are limited, officers are limited to 2 of these. And they don't have anyone that is receiving more than 2, and the numbers of people that are receiving even 1 are fairly limited.
Thank you, Dr. Aldridge. I know that that was a question from the last meeting. If there are no other comments, all those in favor of this ordinance, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. One other thing, we are missing Mr. Escabel today, so if in the event of a tie, the chair will cast the tie-breaking vote. So go ahead, Jen, and read the second item, please.
Number 10, ordinance second reading, submitting to the qualified property owners of real property within the boundaries of the Cheyenne Downtown Development Authority District of Cheyenne, Wyoming, excluding real property used exclusively for residential purposes at a special election on Wednesday, October 18th, 2023, the following question. Shall a special assessment of 20 mills be levied upon the assessed value of real property within the boundaries of the Cheyenne Downtown Development Authority District, excluding real property used exclusively for residential purposes for a period of 4 years pursuant to provisions of Wyoming State Statute 15-9-217B for the purposes of 1, landscaping or maintenance of public areas, 2, planning and management of development or improvement activities, 3, promotion of public events, and 4, activities in support of business recruitment and development.
Staff report.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, Chris Jones, City Clerk. This is a requirement as part of the election process. We recently passed the resolution. I believe the only difference in this one is we took out a cost provision that was in the previous one as the city now has the DDA under their umbrella. And I try to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Chris. Questions for Chris? Dr. Aldridge?
Chairman White, through you. So Chris, historically, there's been a charge for this election or a cost to this election. And was that paid for by the city in the past, or was that paid for reimbursed by the DDA?
Mr. Chair, through you to Dr. Aldridge, it's my understanding that the cost was bore by the DDA. I got with the treasurer and we didn't find any evidence of any expense to the city other than the clerk's office time to run the election.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Thanks, Chris. Stand by. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'd move to approve on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this ordinance, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward.
Number 13, ordinance second reading, creating chapter 8.68, limiting the use of plastic single-use carryout bags of Title 8 Health and Safety of the Municipal Code of the City of Cheyenne, Wyoming, regulating the use of single-use plastic bags as specified.
Staff report. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. Richard Johnson, 612 McGovern.
President Johnson, if you could hold one moment, we have some folks that were in the overflow seating, which is the council chambers, and they will be coming into the committee room for this item.
Okay, very good. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I will. Thank you, sir. Welcome, folks. Thank you for being here. Come on in. I hope we have enough seating. If we, oh. Yeah. If not, we'll have to have some folks stand outside until they're done. Do we have everybody, Mike? Okay. There's 2 seats up here. One in front, one in back. Thank you, everybody. Oh, Mike's bringing in couple more seats. Is that everybody? Okay, that looks to be everybody. Thank you all for being here. With that, President Johnson, if you'd please give the staff report, please.
Okay, very good. Once again, for those that did not hear on the initial, Richard Johnson, 612 McGovern. Pretty much as far as this ordinance goes, there's been a lot of dialogue since introduction last Monday. So I will kind of go into what the future holds for this ordinance if passed by council. We have a recommendation for substitute that we plan to introduce next Monday at the main city council meeting. There was an error in regards to the sequencing in the ordinance in regards to assignment of the numbers. At this point, it is still intended to stay in section 8 for public health and safety. So that substitute will most likely be brought forward so we can get our numeric sequencing in order. This at a recommendation of one of the sponsors with me. I spoke with them this morning and they asked me my thoughts on removing the 10-cent fee altogether, including the following section in regards to WIC and SNAP being removed from that fee waiver. I was totally fine with that. So for anybody in public comment that's wishing to speak in regards specifically to the 10 cents, it is the intent of the sponsors at this time, because I've conferred with them, that we have no issue removing that 10-cent part of the ordinance. Another person who was not a sponsor, but a council member, also brought up about giving more times for merchants to adapt to this. Since Jackson Hole gave 8 months of preparation, right now we are looking at a future amendment to have implementation happen around July 1st of 2024, so that everyone can get in sync with the next fiscal year. So those are where we're at right now. So conversations have been in place, but I know from what I've read in the emails, most people were concerned about the 10-cent fee, which with the intent of me as the main sponsor and my co-sponsors, we intend to get rid of that at second reading, but we had to follow some other steps first before we did that. So I'm available for any questions, but I'd rather hear public comment first.
Thank you, President Johnson. Stand by, please. Do you have any questions for President Johnson? Or I think we should perhaps go to public comment if you two are okay with that. So we'll do public comment. We're going to allow 3 minutes per speaker. If you could please approach the podium, press the button until the light is on and give us your name for the record. We very much appreciate that. And with that, we'll open it up for public comment. Button there that, and then a light will come on. You got it.
Okay, Don Odom. I'm the state director for Restore Liberty. And from city halls across the country to DC, you know, I'm glad, first of all, to see this fee drop because there's never enough taxes, whether you call it a fee, a permit, a license, whatever. But it's always about control. And there needs to be more study done on this because, well, actually the study's been done. California did this several years ago. And on NPR, you can look it up on Google. They had a discussion about it in 2017. And that study in California showed that when they banned single-use plastic bags, which is kind of a joke in itself, everyone I know reuses their bags. If they have dogs, they pick up the poop. They use it in their small trash cans. In California, the study showed that small garbage bag sales went up after their ban. And garbage bags are thicker than the so-called single-use bags. So they really didn't accomplish anything there. And then when you move to reusable bags, if you're using 100% cotton bag, either you're going to keep washing it after being out in public with everything that happened with COVID. So it's going to wear out and be replaced, or it'll be a carrier for possibly bacteria and disease. So some of the experts recommend to use, no lie, plastic bags or polyester, which is another form of plastic, a synthetic. And when you throw it in the landfill, guarantee you it's going to last longer than a Walmart bag. I've had Walmart bags get loose in my yard and get covered up with something and they deteriorate. You go to try to pick them up out from under some dirt and they just break apart because they've decomposed. So to me, we do not need this. And if this fee ever comes back, you'll see me back up here again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir?
Turn it off. My name is Scott Walton. I was in store management for over 18 years and we've owned small businesses and I don't know if the retail businesses are against this, but as somebody that tried to control expenses in a grocery store, it was a big expense, plastic. My wife is a big recycler, brings bags when we remember. But it just seems like that, they could use boxes, they could use other forms, but eliminating the bags, I think the grocery stores are probably like that. I mean, because plastic is a big expense to them. But I don't think a tax is appropriate. I think the grocery stores could, if they want to provide bags, paper bags, they could. But I would like to see in the ordinance, I know they're talking about it eliminating that, but put in there that they're never going to put a tax on there. But I mean, as far as a retailer, somebody that owned businesses, I think it'd be great. That was a big expense for us when we had our small businesses. So if people would bring a recyclable bag, I mean, for us as a small business, we would love it. So.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Couple days ago, I am Micah Earmark from Cheyenne.
Thank you.
A couple days ago, I had sent you all an email reiterating a lot of stuff just about Cheyenne. And for the numbers that I was checking against numbers that I was hearing before, when you really do all the calculations, we deposit about 1,000 pounds a day of plastic bags waste in our landfills. And that is only about a little over 1% of the entire amount that goes into landfills every day. I also had printed out how long it takes to decompose various products. And as you can see, the plastic bags take about 10 to 20 years to decompose, as opposed to fishing line that takes 600 years. Foam plastic cups take 50 years. You know, I mean, it's just, when you go through the whole thing, tin cans, 50 years. So that's just kind of the basics here for Cheyenne. Then when I looked at what other states and countries also use incinerators, it turns out that the United States has 75 incinerators in use that's used by 25 other states. So I don't know why we're not looking at their figures. Florida alone sees that it is so successful. They have 9 just in the state of Florida, 9 incinerators, okay? In my little notes, you will see they are all depicted on that second page of, not what I sent you all, but on the second page. It's got all the cities, all the states, the amount of tons per day that go into it, and how many units they have. On the second page of that, as you go down, you know, there's Cheyenne with its 1,000. Oh, and I guess it's tons, not thousands of pounds, but tons. Okay, but as you can see, there are a lot more other states that have a lot less, and yet they still find these facilities useful. Then, if you look at the Beverly Hills information, printed back in 2022, they found that Sweden has the best system in all of Europe. And they found too that the energy generated by the incineration of 4 tons of garbage is equivalent to 1 ton of oil, 1.5 tons of coal, or 4 tons of wood waste. When you also look at the little picture showing the comparison between paper and plastic, you will see that with paper bags consuming 1,000 bags of paper, shopping bags, paper is the equivalent to burning 15 gallons of gasoline, and it will take 6 trees 1 full year to clean up the carbon emissions. Whereas with plastic, it's easily made. It doesn't have a lot of the toxic components that the paper has. I think in the original note that I had sent to you all, it would take, oh my goodness, I think it was like something like 16,000 trees to produce 14,000 paper bags. So, I mean, just economically and feasibility wise, and the amount of space that is eliminated through incineration, I propose that this whole topic be put on hold until the committee has a chance to review other findings on this. And I think they will find that the way that we should go is just incineration, not play the stupid game, you know, with all the numbers and the grocery stores keeping track of this and that. It's crazy. But, you know, look at the realities. And if we go with the incineration thing, we may not need a nuclear power plant here in the States, because they generate so much energy that I think it's in Sweden. It says that from the heat that the incinerators produce, it has enough to warm 1,250,000 apartments and 680 houses per year. That would take care of all of the households right here in Cheyenne. It would also be a way to have more jobs. It reduces our landfills. It's cleaner. The emissions that go out total like a total percent of about 2% in pollution a year. So if nothing else, I mean, hopefully you can just vote this thing down immediately. But if nothing else, postpone the vote until you have a chance to look over all of this. And we're just shooting ourselves in the foot because we're denying people of employment. We're not doing anything to reduce pollution. The biodegradable stuff, I mean, it's just a nightmare. So
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want me? Welcome, ma'am. The red light comes on. There you go.
There it
You
is.
got
Okay. My name is Michelle Shimon and I live at 4301 Carla Drive and I'm a small business owner here in Cheyenne. This is kind of weird because I know a lot of people in this room. From my almost 15 years here at the city. But I have been a business owner for 2 years in downtown Cheyenne. I provide mainly paper bags for my customers. I do have plastic for the heavier stuff like jars of pasta sauce or the frozen pasta, stuff like that. When I first saw this, I was very upset. But at the same time, I'm going, the only thing that's going to cause me more problem is the stress that I get from my customers that are upset with me for charging them the 10 cents. I'm glad that you're going to do away with that 10-cent fee because it's just going to cause me to have more bookkeeping time to have to put in. I have always tried to offer reusable. I use the paper and the plastic is there for certain things. I also am not against doing away with the plastic, but don't do it so suddenly, please. This affects everyone, not just the grocery stores. The grocery stores, yes, it's a big cost for them, but when the plastic bag is 1 cent per bag and the paper bags that I buy in bulk are 49 cents for equivalent size for the paper bag, that's a huge difference that I already have to eat as a business owner. I appreciate being able to come up here and talk with everyone today and put my opinion out here without being emotional. And I appreciate you hearing what we, the citizens, have to say and we, the small business owners. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next person.
Michael White. I have quite a few comments, but one of the main comments would be bottom line is this reflects that consumers should have a choice, and so should the business owners. I brought in a lot of bags today, but just thinking of some of the things that we've done here lately. During COVID, my wife and I shop at King Super, so let's take some examples of that. The plastic bags that are used for produce or like fish or whatever, are those exempt or are those something that people have to get rid of? Number two, how many times have you guys been in the grocery store where you see people come out and with mass quantities of plastic bags? If they choose to do that, that's their choice. But now we're asking business people and consumers to do what the city government wants us to do. Let's take some other examples like the gal that was here before. All the businesses downtown, I'm sure a lot of them still do plastic bags. Bottom line is that's more costs that they have to have for their bottom line. Let's take a big economic thing that just happened, Frontier Days. Let's go out to the exhibition hall. We're going to tell all those people that come in from out of state that they can't have plastic bags. Farmers Market went there this weekend. Didn't have any recycled bags. People were more than willing to give plastic bags. Those are just some of the examples, but when I see the exemptions, and I guess I want to make sure I'm understanding from Mr. Johnson, I can go to McDonald's or I can go to Texas Roadhouse or Perkins or one of them. I get a bag and that's okay. So if you're going to do something, you need to do it all in the same requirements. But let's take it even further. How about the county commissioners? We drive just south of I-80 on South Greeley Highway. I can go to Safeway there. They're under the county rules. They're not under the city rules. I have property here in town and I also live out in the rural area. Flight sanitation picks up my sanitation. When it goes through the big truck, it's already broken up, and those plastic bags we put trash in, they go to the landfill. Many years ago, when I worked for the city, there was discussion about let's get the landfill redone and make it bigger. That was back when Kevin Sherrard was here, and a gentleman of nature of Bob Clary was the engineer. That's been almost 20 years ago. We've also shipped trash to all Colorado. So what are we really saving? But bottom line is this should be a consumer and a retail place along with King Soopers, Walmart, all the rest of them. I heard the fact from Mr. Johnson, and if he wants to correct me, that's fine. But if we're going to have stuff like King Soopers, I'd like to see the documentation that says they are in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathy Sigliano. I too am not in favor of this fee or tax, I think is really what it is coming down to. How many people in this room are reusing their plastic bags? We are reusing them to pick up dog poop, do our cat litter. Me and some of my friends have discussed that we take them to the lake when our kids have wet clothes or put their towels in it. People use them as trash can liners because I don't think they make small trash bags for the really tiny trash cans. So saying that they're single use is not a true statement. And again, it's just a tax. So let's just be honest with that. Thank you.
And just for clarification, President Johnson has indicated that any this ordinance moving forward will not have that 10-cent tax. But go ahead, sir.
Am I on? No. Am I? Okay. My name is John Monross, or Manjars, for those of you who speak English. I don't know how many of you have been to Las Cruces. I spend quite a bit of time down there. I see that this new idea comes from Jackson, Wyoming, and from Las Cruces. What I know most about Las Cruces, you can have an abortion up there right up until the minute of birth. There's nothing about Las Cruces other than I have to visit there because I have relatives and friends there. But there's nothing about Las Cruces that tells me I want to have that in Wyoming. Jackson, there's 23 counties in Wyoming. 22 of them actually are Wyoming. One of them runs against just everything we do in this state. The big joke in Jackson is the billionaires have pushed out the millionaires. You know, it's the home of the rich and famous up there and the elite who know better than we do and think they're better than we are. I wouldn't take anything from Jackson either. This idea of single use, I don't have a dog and I don't do those kinds of things. I recycle mine at Walmart. And every time I take a bag and drop it in there, the thing's full. Everybody is recycling. Have you found some laying around the road? Sure you have, along with water bottles and aluminum cans and everything else. It seems to me like a plastic bag problem. You have a litter problem, and that's already against the rules. And figure out a way to follow the rules. And we won't have to worry about that. As far as the big box stores and that sort of thing, up until a few months ago, most of the litter I saw was masks, wasn't plastic bags. I keep one bag in my car full of bags for when I go to Colorado because they charge 10 cents a bag down there. And I love pulling a bag out of my pocket when they say, would you like to have a bag for 10 cents? I said, no, I'm from Wyoming. We don't pay for bags. You've already addressed that issue and I appreciate that change. I'm glad you made it. And I'm hoping that it won't come up again in some future meeting. What it comes down to is it's a case of freedom. If you don't want to use a plastic bag, don't use a plastic bag. Take a paper bag, a tote, or a box, or whatever you want to do, but stop trying to force the rest of us to believe the way you believe. That's what it comes down to. And this is a free state. And I think that's the end of my comments.
Next person?
Aaron Nab. Get my. When it comes down with ordinance 13 regarding plastic bags, is just another Band-Aid on societal issues. And as pathetic as it has become popular to create new laws to address issues to make it look like politicians and bureaucrats are doing something politically correct, when there is an actual bad reason as to why they're doing it. Community leaders need to be focusing on the cause of issues instead of these petty political correctness policy laws. This whole thing is a complete waste of time. We're wasting our time here when we got a lot more things to be focusing on. With council members being for this ordinance, I would urge them to be honest and transparent with the community about the city's recycling program and where the mainstream of recycling actually goes to and not used to for its intended purposes. Attempting to be like California, like creating completely idiotic lies, and those laws do not even work. And I've spent a great deal throughout all California the last 2 years, and that place is absolute trash hole everywhere you go. It doesn't matter where you go. And they've had these laws for years, and they're having these trash issues. Passing something like this would be a negative point on the community from outsiders. People conforming in these ridiculous policies and ideologies are negative to people wanting to come here or do business or live. And it shows a vision of what the leadership is. I'm just going to leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Jordan Evans, 729 Shoshone Street. I'm the current chairman of the Laramie County Democratic Party, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the members of our party. I've lived in Cheyenne my whole life, and I remember a time when I was growing up that plastic bags weren't even an option. They're fairly new addition to your options within a grocery store nationwide, not just here. 12 other states, I believe, have statewide bans on this. So a lot of the problems as far as point of sale systems that businesses might have to adjust for the tax that is now not going to be implemented would be possible, as well as solutions for small, poop bags and small trash bags. Those, these things exist in other places. I don't think that anyone thinks that we're saying we're going to completely get rid of litter or trash or plastic waste. But the fact of the matter is that these have been identified as a problem going into our landfill. I know that I've seen the proliferation of them throughout my lifetime in our waterways and in our parks and in our trees and in my backyard. And I use them. I go to the store and I get a single-use plastic bag sometimes because I forget my reusable. I'm not trying to say that this will be a panacea to fix all of the waste problems inside of Cheyenne, Wyoming. I would not encourage anyone to think or believe that, but I think any effort that we can make to reduce that stream of waste into our community's waste management system is to be commended, and it's admirable. As a party, we have no position on removing the tax. We are not for or against it. We are just for banning of the plastic bags because whether or not you reuse them to pick up poop or your cat litter, eventually they are making it into the waste stream. And I will just add a note. I don't think, based off of my personal experience, that we are a town full of litter bugs or people not following the rules. I think we are a windy town where trash cans blow over a lot and where dumpster lids fly open all the time. And that is how I think primarily most of the waste that you see in our parks and in our systems are making it into our into our lives as litter. I don't think it's people throwing trash out of the window. And so by eliminating the amount of waste that makes it into the trash can in the first place, the more likely you are to be able to control the waste that ends up out there. As a last note, I will point out, the government of Sweden was mentioned earlier. In 2022, they adopted a plan that by 2025, they'll have a maximum of 40 plastic bags per person in their country per year. And that includes trash bags and other bags for use in their homes. So they're looking at eliminating all plastic bags from that nation. And they were held up an example of the right way to do things earlier. So I would say, when you look through that information, please also take a look at the government of Sweden's long-term plans. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hi there, Jacob Wasserberger. So I don't have a lot to say. One of the big things that I've learned from just the last 10 to 12 years of working in politics is that if you trade liberty for security, you deserve neither, because you'll always end up losing both. Eliminating the small waste, single-use bags, I believe is going to cause a conflict economically in some instances. I mean, Costco, their business is completely based on selling wholesale items. So, I mean, people that are coming in and out with a lot of stuff. Now, no, I mean, you might have the new bags that aren't going to have the 10-cent fee or that's been waived, but my thoughts on that is what's the point in having these new bags to begin with anyways? I mean, when I lived in California where you paid 10 cents for a bag, they were thicker than the ones that you get here in town. So, I mean, I think to what I can see, that's just going to completely kill the purpose of getting rid of the single-use bags anyways. Another thing that I got to say is, we're trying to address issues with landfill. I mean, if you look at green energy, that's supposed to be so great for the environment. I mean, if we supply enough wind turbines and solar panels, from everything that I've studied, it would take up about 25% of America's land to generate all that energy for the country. And the amount of waste and landfill that would come from that is literally twice the amount that what we're using today. So I'm just up here to say, I'd like to ask you guys to kill the bill. This is just, I mean, to me, this just seems like complete bureaucracy and just totally unnecessary. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next person.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, sir.
This is on red, is that?
That means you're good.
Okay. I'm Richard Lyle. I live on Hickory Place, and I'm opposed to this ban on single-use bags because it would promote the use of these so-called recyclable polycarbonate type plastics. And the problem with that is that the polycarbonate plastics of these reusable bags contains a substance called biphenyl A, or BPA. And that has been identified as a carcinogen. And the issue is, if you put your food in that, it will come in contact with this carcinogen. And I did some Google research, and 32 states have restricted or banned BPA in products that come into contact with food. The European Union has said that you can't have products made that contain BPA that comes into contact with baby bottles, sipper cups, packaging for infant formula, or anything else that comes into contact with children under the age of 3. Yeah. I've seen there are a number of studies. I'm not convinced that they are totally accurate, but they have shown links between BPA or other dioxins and cancer, reproductive health, the immune system, or neurologic problems. Now, I believe, they show that there's a link. I don't think have studies that have proven causation, because that's quite a bit more complicated. But, when you consider whether or not to ban these bags, take a broader look of the entire environmental impact. If people are going to be using these so-called reusable bags, there's a health problem. I mean, is this just a feel-good type environmental measure, or have you looked at the broader consequences? I can give you one example of feel-good type environmental regulations: separating recyclables from the rest of the trash. In Frontier days, they had all these red cans for your recyclable, cans and bottles, and I saw with my own eyes every day, they were mixed in and put in the same dump trucks with the stuff in the regular brown containers. So, okay.
Thank you, sir. You're at your time. We really appreciate the information that you've given us.
Thank you for your time too.
Thank you. Next person that wants to speak? No one? Okay, so we'll go to the folks who are waiting on Zoom.
Mr. Lopez Smith, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can.
We can, sir. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, my name is Zach Lopez Smith from here in Cheyenne. So one thing I heard last week that City Council Member Johnson said that we produce 250 million tons of trash a day here, and I don't know where he pulled that number from. New York City produces 12,000 tons a day. I know we have a lot more antelope here than people, but I know they can't produce that much trash. So not sure where he pulled that number from.
I think President Johnson had offered that he did make a mistake in that and made a typo with that number, sir. But
yeah, that's a huge typo. Anyways, to try and sway a vote. Anyways, also, everything that government does is a slippery slope. I see that they take away the 10-cent tax, but with government, those things always come back around, and I can just see that happening. Grocery prices already sky high due to policies that put forth by politicians that these people probably voted for. Now you want that, you want another tax on the community eventually. Obviously they're trying to reverse that. I just see this as just, somebody said government bureaucracy. That's a big part of it. We got another part is Mr. Johnson. I see him as someone who likes to waste money here in Cheyenne. He oversaw Art Cheyenne for a while. I was on a project that worked with Art Cheyenne. They had a database that they were supposed to create that was for all the artwork in Cheyenne. And there was $40,000 that went to that. And of our tax money here in Cheyenne. And that database was incomplete, didn't have anything in it. I had to create my own database for it. And then I also had to walk around the city. I was not getting paid $40,000 a year, and I didn't see any of that $40,000. So I'm just saying, he's just another government shill looking out for, own interests and not of the taxpayers, not of the people here in Cheyenne. And I just can't see this getting passed. And if it does, we'll just vote you guys out. You know, it's one of those things like you go woke, you go broke. Look what happened to Liz Cheney, and that's what, you know, good luck and thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. And I'm gonna, before we move forward and we take the next person, before we move forward, I'm gonna ask everybody to stay respectful on this. The last person that spoke got a little bit away from the topic of whether or not you agree with the ordinance of plastic, banning plastic bags, and got somewhat personal towards a colleague. And I would just ask everybody to refrain from that if you would, please. Thank you. Next person, please.
Wendy Volk, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Go ahead, Ms. Volk.
Thank you, Chairman White. I just wanted to say this is Wendy Volk and I live in Ward 1. Just want to say I do support the ban. I know it's going to be uncomfortable and it's change and no one likes change, but just like when we go to a business like Sam's Club and they don't have bags and you box your things. I've been to other parts of the United States and other parts of the world, and plastic bags were banned, or there was an option of being able to purchase another type of bag or a box or use a box. It was uncomfortable the first time and then you adjusted, and we've adapted as I've now been to places where if you're in a community that charges for something or they offer you another alternative, we just have to adjust to it. But I am concerned about how our waste management and looking for the future. So I do support it, even though I know it's going to be painful at first for effectuating change, but I do support the ordinance, and I know it's not going to be an easy thing to adopt, but I just wanted to echo my support for this proposed recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sven Cernals, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
We can, sir. Go ahead.
Wonderful. So I have a background in optimizing processes in industry, and like when you implement a change, what you typically do is carry out a Pareto analysis. And in that Pareto analysis, there is a rule of thumb, which is not exact science, but like generally holds, which constitutes of the following. That is, you want to implement those 20% of the projects that will have 80% of the impact you want to make. Now, when I hear the numbers cited by one of the other people who gave public comment, I hear that plastic bags are about 1% of the municipal waste, which I can't totally believe. It seems like a reasonable number. So by that logic, if I were to carry out a Pareto analysis, my conclusion would be that this measure is insignificant, does not have an effect. Then you would run into an argument of, yes, but like if we're doing nothing, we're doing nothing. We have to do anything we can. And so I just heard this earlier today when the president of the Democratic Party was speaking in this meeting. And I disagree with that aspect, because it isn't true that you have to do anything you can, because if you're implementing a meaningless measure, you're using that same time that you could use to implement a meaningful measure. So therefore, you do have to prioritize, and you do have to have a look at what really has a significant impact. And so again, based on the numbers that I'm seeing here, I draw the superficial conclusion, at least, that the impact doesn't seem to be material. And so I would urge the council to have a look at this, analyze the impact, and also have a look at scientific research as to how much does it really reduce the plastic waste. So as a full disclosure, I was originally born in Europe. I grew up most of my life without plastic bags. So the first 10 years with plastic bags, the coming 20 years without plastic bags, and then they were back in the United States. And when I just analyze my own behaviors, I will bring my bags to the supermarket. When I don't have a sufficient number of bags, I will take another one. And I'm happy that the plastic bags are available at that point in time. So I wonder if there is any scientific research that analyzes people's behaviors and analyzes that if people have to buy a bag each time they have an insufficient number, if that doesn't end up producing more waste than without. So with that said, I would like you to take it a step back to the drawing board and analyze the scientific impact of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a Mark. You should be able to unmute yourself. Can you please identify for the record what your last name is?
Yes, Mark Moody.
Welcome, sir.
You're welcome. Mark Moody, right here in Cheyenne. Just want to say I'm opposed to this 100% as well. And so are 71% from the KGAB poll. We heard from one previous figure, is admirable. That right there means it's more not going to have an impact. It's more just signaling this feels good. But one thing that hasn't brought up is to think about this. Let's say it's were to become ordinance. It will be the beginning of the end for both Cheyenne and Wyoming, seen as being friendly to coal, oil, and natural gas, and to mining. We are going to be having a mine here just west of town. It's going to provide a lot of jobs. And, you know, in the future, mining companies, oil, gas, and coal companies, they might look somewhere else because perception is reality. They're going to assume, well, if they're going to be in plastic bags, are they going to do what California did with trying to ban fracking? Are they going to do what Colorado did with having this draconian oil and gas commission that's no longer volunteer based? So perception is reality. They will look at that. And this will not only impact us, this is going to impact the whole state from here up to Gillette, up to Sheridan, into Casper. Because if this passes, we're not going to be seen as being an energy friendly state like we are now. And I don't think anyone here in the city council is against coal, natural gas, and oil, but that's what it'll do. The old saying is perception is reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person.
Josh Bazoo, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can, sir. Go ahead.
This is Josh Bizot from Ward 3. I'll keep my points pretty pithy. Leave it to individual customers to decide what bags to use or what carriers to use from the market. Leave it to individual businesses to decide which of those carriers they want to offer, and leave it to entrepreneurial innovators to, solve the environmental impact here. So I am against the ordinance, heavily so, because I agree with a lot of the other points being made from those people who are also against the ordinance, the broader impact it's going to have on business friendliness going forward. So, yep, that's about all I had to say.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Joe Shogan, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing good today. Just want to commend the city council on going towards the direction to protect the environment. But in the same token, this is a very negligible, there's not going to be a lot of resolve that happens from this, even if it's passed. Secondly, I feel like it's a gross overreach towards local businesses. I feel like businesses should be able to decide what direction we go and what direction they market. And to tell them they cannot give a bag out without a penalty is kind of appalling to me. And then finally, like governance of it. I understand the governance part and the 10 cents that's off the table now. Now, who's going to fund the governance? I'm sitting here in Holiday Park and I'm watching two people literally get after it. Like right in front of me, broad daylight. And if we can't govern that, how are we going to govern this? I think most of the people
You're
in
having a
Cheyenne
much
are
better
against this.
lunch hour than I am.
Oh, you should see these people, Jeff. I feel that the majority of Cheyenne opposes this ordinance to the core, and I really hope you guys don't pass this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your time at Holiday Park. Sounds great. Next person.
So I'm just gonna take a quick look here.
I don't know how we follow that.
I don't see any other hand, no other hands raised. Oh, let me just look at the chat here. Oh, now more people are raising their hands. Hold on a minute. Mr. Adrian Crater, you should be able to unmute yourself. Mr. Crater, you have your hand raised. Would you like to speak?
Phone and
We can hear you. You're unmuted.
okay. I just think this is government overreach completely. If you want to use a plastic bag, you should be able to use a plastic bag. If you want to use a reusable bag, you should be able to use a reusable bag. I use a reusable bag on a daily basis, but if somebody wants to use plastic, that's up to them. There's really no impact, as other people have stated, on the landfill. And of course, there's litter, but there's always going to be litter of some kind. And that's all I really have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Crater.
Zachary Taylor, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
We can, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me and giving me a moment to speak. I'm the director of the American Recyclable Plastic Bag Alliance. We represent the U.S. manufacturers and recyclers of plastic retail bags targeted by this ordinance. We are strongly opposed for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, there's been a handful of comments this afternoon about Colorado. I want to point out that the ordinance before the committee today is actually far more stringent than what is in law in California. It actually mirrors what has been adopted by New York and New Jersey. And we think that that is the wrong way to go for a variety of reasons. There's been a couple of comments made about how this may or may not help the environment. I'm going to share a few facts with folks that I think may be interesting to hear. Keep America Beautiful did a national survey of litter along America's roadways and waterways. They found that plastic retail bags, like the ones that this ordinance would ban, account for 0.6% of items that were picked up. Talking about waste in landfill, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency estimates that all plastic bags and sacks combined, that's everything from a tortilla chip bag to a wrapper for a pack of Sour Patch Kids to plastic retail bags that you might get from the grocery store, account for 0.3% of municipal solid waste. So when you look at those two figures together, it really does underscore the infinitesimal impact that this policy would have on the concerns about litter and in the community. But more than anything else, this is going to be incredibly expensive for small businesses and businesses of all size. The cost of paper bags, which is what most people will turn to if plastic is banned, have increased substantially. We heard earlier that some businesses in the community are paying as much as 50 cents per bag. A retailer in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, estimated it cost their store $250,000 to comply with a similar proposal. Those are costs that are going to be passed directly on to consumers. And as we learned in California before their statewide ban on plastic bags, research in the city of Los Angeles showed that grocery stores inside the jurisdiction of the county where they enforced their ban saw business decrease by about 10% compared to stores outside that area as shoppers voted with their feet. For a city that is surrounded by other communities, that's always going to be a real threat. And finally, I just want to note that the bags that would replace plastic bags, the reusable bags that folks have talked about, they're almost all made of plastic, and they're imported from places like China and Vietnam that have terrible environmental records. I just want to thank you very much for your time today. I've sent a letter into the entire council, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or speak one-on-one with members of the council to help better refine this proposal and align it with the values of the community. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Marcy Kindred, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Ms. Kindred.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for taking public comment on this. I just wanted to add my voice in support of this ordinance. I think it's a great step and definitely in line with our Wyoming values. We are a community, we are a state that puts public lands above, I mean, it's such an important thing in our community and our culture. We abide by the leave no trace. I think that's in line with this. We've all done that when we go camping in our beautiful public lands. We value and protect our wildlife, our livestock, which is such a boon for our economy. This is all in line with just taking care of this beautiful land. I mean, everybody, no matter what political affiliation, in Wyoming, we love our state and we love our wide open prairies, and we don't want it marred by the plastic bag blowing through with our beautiful Wyoming wind. And this is just, I mean, I've heard some comments about this is just a drop in the bucket, and of course it is. And we should all be working towards reducing plastic containers, all the other plastics that are consumed. And if we pass this kind of an ordinance, we're signaling that we are a community that would like to move towards sustainability, move towards using less of those single-use plastics. This is just something that we can start with. Just because it's not going to completely eliminate our plastic waste is a silly argument as to why we shouldn't begin. Why shouldn't we take that first step? So I wanted to raise, and I'm grateful that this ordinance is being proposed and this healthy debate is happening, and just want to put my hat in there as supporting this ordinance wholeheartedly. And I believe that it is within our Wyoming values. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I saw a couple of folks come in late. We're currently discussing the plastic bags. Would you like to make a public comment on that? Oh. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm Phyllis Salzberg, resident of Cheyenne for more than 40-something years. And I'm here to express support for this ordinance. I think it's about time. There's, as many people have said, there are many environmental issues here, although I guess it depends on your statistics as to which ones you're going to believe. I have done a number of greenway cleanups, and the number of bags that I've pulled out of the water and the bushes is appalling, along with plastic bottles and aluminum cans. I'm not going to go into those two issues, but so I think the cost of convenience of using plastic bags is more than we should have to bear. I think it's time to step up and do away with plastic bags in our community. I also am tired of seeing them blowing in the wind on the fences. I don't think that speaks very well of our community. When we have visitors that say, well, they must not take much pride in their community that they can't keep it cleaned up. So I am in support of the proposed ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else here in the room?
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Trujillo. I don't have a negative or a positive. What I do have is it is local control, and you need to, listen to the people. But I notice you guys pick and choose businesses and how to dictate things. So we have a lot of apartment complexes that are raising the rent and causing homelessness. And we can't do nothing or say nothing to them on how to run their business because it's a business. But now you guys want to impose a trash bag ordinance on businesses. So just think about how you pick and choose how you want to enforce these laws, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
My name is Carol Webb and I live in Carla Drive by King Supers. I am a senior citizen and I think you need to take into account that anything that you do will impact the seniors. I do use recyclable bags, but I buy them. They're anywhere from $1 to $3.50 to $4. I buy the boxes that they sell at Albertsons. So I do both, but I'm also a crafter and I'm also a missionary. And when we went to Africa, we used the plastic bags in a unique way. I'm a crafter and we would cut them up and we would put them together. And we'd make mats for the homeless people in Africa. We made raincoats for them and we made sleeping bags. And when I lived in California, we did the same thing for the homeless. We would take the plastic bags and we would recycle them in that way. You can also use them in crafts and make your own grocery bags that last longer. When you crochet them together and they're washable. And when you use a cardboard box, you don't know when you take that home if it doesn't have bugs in there. I had a really bad ant infestation because I went to Sam's and bought some produce. And then when I left the cardboard box on the floor in the kitchen, I came back and there was ants everywhere. So that you have to take into consideration the cardboard could be more environmentally damaging, not to mention it's not healthy. So what I want to say is take into consideration, and we should have choice. If it's that important, we should put it on the ballot and let everybody vote on it. So I really appreciate your time. Again, my name is Carol Webb, and thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Webb. Going once.
Councilman Kathy Nestor. I'm a resident of Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I'm concerned with the wording and the implication that you're not actually getting rid of plastic bags. If you look at section B, where it says the bags can be used by the consumer inside the establishment for bulk items, containers, and unlike bags can also be used at restaurants, food establishments, and selling eateries. So not all businesses are made to follow this ordinance. So you're not actually eliminating the bags from the environment. And again, if you look, so if you take out the fee, the 10-cent fee, so then how are you going to imply the C? The section, the enforcement and the penalties and the remedies? That is my question. How do you imply the enforcement of it if you're taking out the fee for it?
Not sure I have an answer for you, ma'am. Which C are you talking about?
The C, the violations. If you're taking out the fact that you're charging a fee, that takes out C.
Which one?
That takes out, so B, single-use plastics prohibited by the Environment Service penalty fee. B,
Right.
say they choose a paper bag, you charge an environmental fee as a business. So based on that, based on you taking out the fee, you're then taking out the fact that the business has to then report to the city, the 50%, which is C.
Don't have an answer for you at this present time. Is Mr. Johnson still on? Okay.
So I'm just confused with the reason for the ordinance now that you're taking that out.
Well, those amendments haven't been made yet. It's my understanding that they were going to be made at the meeting of the full governing body next Monday. Hopefully we can have an answer on your question then.
Okay. Because then if you're taking out the fee, it just sounds like you're charging the business and then they're misdemeanors if they're not following
Yeah.
the ordinance.
I think if we take out paragraph B, then you're gonna have to, obviously C is gonna have to be deleted as well, but
So then
I'm just giving
what's-
you a guess.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing no more comments from the from public comment, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve on second reading.
Second. I will second for the sake of discussion. Is there comments from the committee? Dr. Aldrich?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Jen.
I'm gonna defer to City Clerk Jones on this, but I don't think you can second.
Oh,
Mr. Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk, and in your role as the chair, you may not second, but you can vote to break a tie if you choose to. You cannot make a motion or second as chair of the committee.
I can vote but not second.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you for that clarification. As there is no second,
Wait, I'll second it.
You can't second, you made the motion.
you can't second yourself. This isn't Chicago. So,
Vote early, vote often.
okay, as there is no second, the meeting, pardon me, there will be no recommendation from the Finance Committee at the next meeting of the governing body. That will allow just a couple minutes for folks who were here for that one item to leave if they wish, or if they would like to stay, they're more than welcome to stay as well.
Chairman White, we should probably let people know that even though it's going with no recommendation, that it will still be discussed Monday evening because it will be brought forward for the sake of conversation.
That's correct. Thank you, Dr. Aldrich.
Number 18, resolution reappropriating the fiscal year 2023 budget of the city of Cheyenne according to the provisions of Wyoming State Statute 16-4-112 and 16-4-113.
Thank you for your patience, Treasurer Lockman. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. And excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, so I'll try to get through this. Before you is the final reappropriation for last fiscal year. The memo that I wrote provided detailed information on this request, but I'll quickly provide some highlights. As you will see, I'm requesting $460,972 from general fund reserves for various items. Although the budget for these items is coming from reserves, I would like to point out that I'm estimating that general fund departments will be returning approximately $3.5 million in unspent budget for fiscal year 23. The reason for most of these general fund requests are due to the way that I budget. As I indicated in my memo, it is impossible to budget up to a year in advance for unseen items such as employee vacation and sick leave accrual payouts, vandalism expenses, utility and fuel increases, and costs related to accidents. Therefore, instead of just arbitrarily budgeting an unknown amount for these items, I choose to wait until the end of the fiscal year and backfill each department's budgets. If you have any other questions on any of the other items, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Stand by. Questions for Ms. Lockman? Dr. Aldrich?
Chairman White, through you. So I have actually several thoughts. The vandalism expenses, I just wanted to make sure that we pointed that out to the public that oh, good. I'm done. I'm done.
Sorry.
Sorry. The amount was $45,639, and that's just for this first 6 months of the year.
Yes, and that's just general fund as well.
Right.
Not other funds.
And then I also was curious, we had under the police department, we have a claim that where an employee came to a brief stop and proceeded to enter the intersection. And they didn't see a vehicle traveling through the intersection, struck the vehicle, and the cost was to the city was a $5,000 deductible. We have another one where under the police department, employee backing out of their driveway for work hit a fence post for $3,543.98, which was under the $5,000 deductible. And then we had an employee that was driving their vehicle out of the public safety center's basement and struck the side of the wall for another $3,658.65. I'm just curious, what are the consequences when we have employees who do damage to vehicles and it doesn't meet the deductible and the city is paying these expenses? If I were to do that with a state employee with a state car, I would be held responsible as a state employee. Are employees not expected to pay up to the deductible amount if they do the damages?
Let Mr. Fountain answer that question.
Mr. Fountain?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldrich. No, what we typically do, Dr. Aldrich, is we refer back to department directors to make the determination on how they want to handle that. Most of the time, if it's a situation where there was an operator error, they are coached in that situation and they're written up. That's how we handle it on our side of the house. But there is no financial obligation attached to an employee making an error in duty of operations.
Are there any warnings that are sent out, or does that depend upon the department?
Again, that goes back to the department, Dr. Aldrich. I think what we try to do again is we do root cause analysis with each and every one of the incidents and accidents that we have within the city. WARM is very active in that participation process as well, but we do work with the directors on coaching those individuals so that we don't hopefully see those accidents occur again.
Thank you. And I had one more question, Chairman White.
Go ahead.
Under Community Rec and Events Department, it says an aquatics employee was in the middle of an intersection when a citizen's vehicle ran the stop sign and collided with city vehicle. I'm just wondering if it's common that our aquatics employees are driving around town. That seemed a little odd that we had an aquatics employee that was driving. Oh, between the pools.
Mr. Chair, Jason Sanchez, Community Rec and Events. Not only does our aquatics team oversee the aquatic center, but they're also at Lincoln Park at that pool and the splash pad downtown. So it's not uncommon for them to be out and about. They also go to purchase acid, bicarb, chlorine, and different materials that we need to maintain the pools.
Okay. And then my last comment is just, Chairman White, through you, is that I saw that we have a city council health insurance coverage change that's going to result in $20,745 from the first 6 months for reserves to pay for the increase to that line item. And I really struggle with the idea that we pay for health insurance for part-time employees as elected council people, and we don't pay for health insurance for our part-time employees. Just a note. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for Ms. Lockman? Hearing none, comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I would move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
I see how weird. I can second her, but I can't second me.
I don't write the rules. Yeah. Okay, hearing no other comments from the committee, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. That item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 19, resolution expressing the support of the governing body for the establishment of an Urban Renewal Authority fiduciary fund.
Summer colds are the worst.
Good afternoon, Robin Lockman again. As I indicated in the memo that I provided, in July, the city received its first tax increment financing payment from the Laramie County Treasurer in the amount of $12,656.69 for property taxes collected in fiscal year 23. These funds will be segregated by each urban renewal plan and project, including 15th Street, the Hines in the Hole, and the Hitching Post. The establishment of a fiduciary fund will allow me to deposit the property taxes and then oversee the allocation and spending of these funds as intended by the Urban Renewal Authority Board. Thank you, and I will stand for questions.
Are there questions for Robin? Lucky for her. Comments from the public? Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 20G, grant agreement between the city of Cheyenne and the Federal Transit Administration to fund transit operations.
Oh, goodness. And staff report?
Good afternoon, Renee Jordan with Cheyenne Transit. This is
Thank you for being here, Renee. I mistakenly thought Robin had to speak again, and I'm glad she didn't have to. So go ahead, Renee. Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't let her do that for me. She sounds terrible. This is a federal 5307 grant to support transit operations. And this particular grant is going to cover a 3-year period, or just about a 3-year period. So we're hoping not to have to bring this back in front of you every year like we have in the past. This will just get us through the next 3 fiscal years. I'm available for any questions.
Thanks, Renee. Stand by. Questions for Renee? Dr. Aldrich?
Chairman White, through you. I was just, as I was looking through this, I don't see where there is any match. I do see where local funds will be provided for local general funds and non-federal state funds on page 2, but I'm not seeing any match. Is it accurate that there is no match on this federal grant?
There actually is match required. It actually is on page 2 of underneath award information. It talks about under projects, number 1, says operating assistance totaling 1,945,724 at a cost sharing ratio of 50-50. So there is match required on this. That amount will be 50-50, and then the lower amount below is at 80-20 that we'll use for ADA operations.
And Chairman White, through you, where are we taking this match from, the general fund then?
This match will come from YDOT, the Laramie County, and some from the city.
As a follow-up, do we, Chairman White, do we know what the city's share would be per year?
I don't know that number off the top of my head because it varies based off of what we're going to expend. Robin usually budgets about 300,000. And we find a way to make it fit in that. That's why this grant will cover. I actually have this grant expiring in 2026 because it will be until expended. But typically it's about, the match is about 300,000.
Thank you.
Renee, just a quick question on, so the match is for 3 years. Do we get a certain percent each year, like 33% each year, or is that how it's budgeted to be spent?
No, it's actually based off of whatever Transit's budget is for that fiscal year. And this is just based off of, when I'm saying covering a 3-year period, it's based off of what our expenditures have been in the past, average.
Other questions for Renee? Hearing none, comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve in the amount not to exceed $2,418,763.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this grant agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. That item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 20H, professional services agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Wilson and Company Incorporated for consultant services for the Pershing Boulevard and Windmill Road intersection and signal design project.
Staff report.
West Bay Engineering, before you is a professional services agreement between the city and Wilson and Company for engineering services related to the design of Pershing and Windmill Road intersection signal design project. The design will provide intersection geometric modifications, ADA upgrades, and the reconstruction of outdated signals at the location. Construction management are also covered under this contract. Funding for this project will come from the 2019 1% specific purpose tax fund. Total professional services will be a cost not to exceed $180,182, and I respectfully request your approval of this contract.
Thanks, Wes.
For any questions.
Stand by. Questions for Mr. Bay? Hearing none, comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $180,182.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this professional services agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. That item moves forward.
Number 20I, professional services agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Design Workshop Incorporated for the City of Cheyenne Parks and Recreation Master Plan Project.
Welcome, Jeannie.
Chair, members of the Finance Committee, Jean Vetter, Parks and Greenway Planner. Before you is a contract with Design Workshop. This is a plan for our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which our old one was from 2006. So it's 17 years old. It's an exciting project to be able to do this year. The cost for the project will be $274,845. The funding will come from ARPA funds. There were 4 proposers on the project and a 6-person selection committee who ultimately chose Design Workshop. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan will include public engagement and outreach to include focus groups, interviews such as soccer, softball, gymnastics, greenway, pickleball, and other groups, public open houses, a website to include branding and graphics, and online surveys, and a midpoint city council work session, so you guys can see where we're at in the process. The plan will also include, among other things, an existing facility and programming inventory, an analysis, asset management plan, programming and facility needs assessment, analysis of community facility fees and developer contributions, implementation plan with prioritization, operations and maintenance considerations. The master plan effort is intended to begin upon approval of this contract and run a minimum of 9 months, likely through May, with final presentation to council sometime in June or July. And I'd just like to bring up the point that a proposed substitution came to you today. It essentially changes something in the indemnification and hold harmless recital in the contract. I'm sure that our city attorney could answer any questions you have relevant to that, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
Stand by. Questions for Ms. Vetter?
Just a comment.
Dr. Aldrich?
Chairman White, through you, I just had a comment. I really want to say I appreciate the effort that this proposal has for a public input and to meet with members of the community and to find out what their desires are. I think that that's huge. And as we're planning a park master plan that will take us into probably the next 10 years. So thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I'd move to approve an amount not to exceed $274,845.
It's been moved and seconded. Do I have a motion on the amendment?
I would move to amend by substitution, dated August 21st, 2023.
It's been moved and seconded on the to amend the agreement. All those in favor of the substitute, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, we are back on the main motion as amended. And that is for the cost. So all those in favor of the professional services agreement as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That item moves forward as amended.
Number 21A, amendment to contract number 7521 between the city of Cheyenne and Laramie County for animal control services.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. This is just a quick run through again. We thought we had this taken care of in the previous year, and it was just an oversight. We're asking for support.
Thanks, Eric. Comments or questions for Eric?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Aldrich?
Chairman White, through you, I was just curious, if you can tell me if the $10,900 that we are receiving each month from the county covers the cost and the number of calls that we've had that have been out in the unincorporated parts of the county and the amount of time that our animal control officers are putting in, as well as their fuel and mileage.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldrich. That's a very big question.
Long ask, Eric. Take your time if you can answer those.
I think I feel comfortable in saying I think that what we are seeing currently as an operation, yes, it is covering it. What I think we need to look at is the other folks in the community, such as Pine Bluffs, Burns, those individuals that we're providing those services to, they're not necessarily being covered by those communities. And so that's a larger conversation that I believe the mayor is engaging in with those smaller communities. But as we currently speak today, we've been able to come in under budget. So I would feel safe saying I believe that the distribution between the city and the county and the split is a fair estimate in terms of the cost of operations.
Question, Chairman White. I'm just curious. So if you receive a call from Pine Bluffs proper, which is incorporated, are we responding to those calls, or do we tell them we're sorry that we only handle unincorporated Laramie County and the city of Cheyenne?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldrich, yes, we do respond to those calls. Right now, we are trying to work with those sheriff's departments in those communities to have them begin to pick up some of those obligations, but we are handling that at this point in time. The commissioners are aware of that. I thought you folks were aware of that, but as we will make sure that you guys are in the future, but yes, we are responding to those calls.
If you could let us know where we're at or check in and let us know where we're at with those other communities so that we can properly make sure that we're properly assessing what we need to assess from the smaller incorporated communities in our county.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric, and the staff for all of your hard work on that. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have an emotion? Do I have an emotion? I have lots of them. Do I have a motion on the amendment to the contract?
Approved an amount of $130,800.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment to contract 7521, please signify by saying aye.
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 No one's opposed. That item moves forward. Next item, please.
Other items for the agenda, letter A, professional services agreement between the city of Cheyenne, Cheyenne Metropolitan Planning Organization, and T-Sharbis for the Laramie County Roads Impact Fee Study. Excuse me.
Chair, members of the committee, Charles Bloom, Planning Development Director. Is Titcherer Buys? Sorry, it's a tough one. It's one to struggle on. What this is an agreement for the MPO, which during the transition, we had a little bit of trouble getting it on the agenda. That's why it's coming on now. We're trying to get this taken care of as expeditiously as possible, so this can allow the county to continue to proceed with a impact fee study to evaluate and explore potential impact fees associated with development in the unincorporated county. We had an impact fee study done by the same group, Titcherer Buys, back in 2007. And in recent years, we have actually implemented some of those recommendations based on that study. We're asking for your support and approval of this MOU, professional services agreement.
Thanks, Charles. Stand by. Questions for Mr. Bloom, Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, I'm just curious through you, how long will this study be good for, or how long did the last one last us?
Chair, the members of the committee, the last one we actually still utilize today because the data is very consistent and standard, and we can utilize that to essentially take that data, apply inflationary numbers to it, whether it be through the construction cost index or it be through inflation, to extrapolate those numbers out to today's numbers. So this one, it could be able to be utilized for them for decades, depending on how the methodology is put together.
So if we have one that we could be using, is this for a part of the county that we did not have done under the last study?
Chair, members of the committee, Dr. Aldrich, the last study that we had done was for the city proper. So this is a different item. This will really look at that rural development lifestyle. Their improvements typically are a lot different, more gravel roads, lesser developed streets because they're more open asphalt, open barrow ditches. So it'll look at this in a whole different way and evaluate the land use pattern that they see in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion on the professional services agreement?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $97,840.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of that agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. That item moves forward. We have one more item.
Other items for the agenda, letter B, cooperative agreement between the city of Cheyenne and the Wyoming Department of Transportation for project ARSCT N 561-802 US 30 Pershing Boulevard to Christensen Road, Cheyenne Streets, Laramie County.
Is there a staff report? Oh, Mr. Cobb, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman White, members of the Finance Committee, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. Sorry, this item came in at our other business. This was related to the Attorney General's office and not being able to get to this sooner, so that's why you came in at our other business. I sincerely apologize. As Jennifer indicated, this is a cooperative agreement between the Wyoming Department of Transportation and ourselves. This is the project known as basically US 30. And its distance, it's confined to Pershing Boulevard to Christensen Road. The purpose of the agreement obviously is to establish and set forth terms and conditions of which the city and the state will be responsible for. Just some of the highlights I'll give you are as follows. Our responsibilities are that we're going to obligate financially contributions in the amount as illustrated in Exhibit B, and the amount of about $1,198,800. And with that, we also then would have to pay 11% of our total cost for their ICAP fees. That's included in that, and then 10% for construction and preliminary engineering costs. If those costs actually exceed 20% of the total estimated costs, we'll have to come back in and reestablish this agreement to you. Upon completion of the project and acceptance by WYDOT, the city then will maintain at its sole expense all features that are outlined in that exhibit as well. That's standard language and practice as we move forward. WYDOT's responsibility will be they will conduct the construction engineering and obviously the design of this, and will advertise and run the project and through their bidding process. As I indicated before, the total estimated cost just for the share of those components is $1,198,800. I've also shown you that a part of this, which is not clearly identified in the agreement, there's an estimated cost for a pedestrian underpass of $2,080,000. With that, the WYDOT is going to participate approximately $461,169 for a total then from our benefit or for our cost of $1,618,831. So with that being said, then two funding sources will have to be used for this. That's the fifth penny specific tax for the roadway improvements. That's the $1,198,800. And then the 6 pennies specific purpose tax for the pedestrian underpass itself. So I basically rounded that to $1,625,000. These are estimated numbers. So if you have any questions, I'd certainly be happy to answer them. I'm sorry for the confusion on the funding.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Stand by. Are there questions for Mr. Cobb?
Chairman White, through you.
Go
I'm
ahead.
curious as to what are you estimating as the total after the $1,198,800? And then you had a different number of 1 million.
Chairman White, through you to Dr. Aldridge.
Go ahead.
Dr. Aldridge, there are two different funding sources. So from the fifth penny, our obligated costs will be $1,198,800. And then from the sixth penny, it'll be $1,625,000.
So we're trying to get the,
That'd be $2,823,800.
Okay. That's different. That's
that,
okay.
that's the total that we were trying to get to, Mr. Cobb. So thank you. Questions for Mr. Cobb?
Thank you.
Comments from the public? Mr. White?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Michael White. In all respect to Mr. Cobb, I'm kind of curious. I realize this is agreement between the city and the Wyoming Department of Transportation, but I'd also ask the question, what's the county's responsibility? Are they contributing? And question number 2, which can be answered at a later date to me, we seem to be getting farther out east. Unless my recollection is wrong, I didn't think that intersection of Christensen Road is in the city. If it is, or if it's not, we seem to be broadening our horizons for responsibility when we have a lot of responsibility in the city itself. Due respect to Mr. Cobb, I know he's worked diligently on these projects, but if you can answer that today or next few days. Very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman White, through you, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Cobb.
To Michael White. So, sir, the answer to your question is the city's responsibility for the Christensen Road portion of the intersection was obligated under the specific purpose tax 6 penny. So what this was we're paying for then the lighting that we should have put in during the Christensen Road project. But in that case, and also some of the earthwork and surfacing, but we couldn't because we didn't want to shut down US 30 at that time. That's when I first became city engineer. So we became, under this agreement, we said that we would have YDOT build those sections of that roadway to complete it, which we had already obligated 6 penny funds to. That's some of that coming out of that. So I hope that answers your question. We're not going outside the city boundary for any of our costs, other than that one intersection, which was, we actually ran that project through the city.
I believe your answer was proved positively by Mr. White. He gave the thumbs up. So yes, other public comment, please.
Don Odom. I'm a resident of that area, and Mr. Cobb just answered my original question of what the project was actually to accomplish. But since I have to drive through that area when I go back to work every morning, I'd like to know if we have an estimated date of start and completion. Thank you.
Mr. Cobb, is there an estimated date of starting this project?
Chairman White, through you, sir. I don't have an exact time frame from YDOT. It is scheduled to go for bid in about 2 months with expected construction to begin this spring. I don't have the final completion date. I don't have those documents in front of me.
Okay. Thank you for giving us your best estimate. Other comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I move to approve an amount not to exceed $2,823,800.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this cooperative agreement between the city of Cheyenne and YDOT, please signify by saying aye.
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 No one's opposed. That item moves forward. There are no other items on our agenda today. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for your patience.